Hello and welcome to a Tabletop Ramblings Middle-earth strategy battle game tournament review. Last weekend, August the 20th and 21st, it was the ambush at Airmon then, up in Ayr at Dominion War Games. It was a GBHl 80 tournament. And seeing as it was close to the in-laws, managed to convince the missus that even though we've got a no tournaments this year following the baby rule in place, that I'd still be able to make this one. And we'd tie it in with a family holiday. So having packed up the army, we jumped in the car and headed off up to sunny Scotland. And off to Dominion. So on the Saturday morning, the tables are all laid out and they are exceptionally beautiful. There's some shots of those tables going on now. And just a quick rundown of the event. It's an escalation event. So it starts at 350 for the first two games, then 550 for the second two. And that's the first day. And then it goes up to 750 for the final two games on the final day. The leader has to stay the same. You can only have one ally, but you can only ally at 550 and 750. So, a couple of different rules there for how the armies are made, but it did make for some very thematic lists. There were also some exceptionally beautiful looking prizes. There was first place was the Treebeard, second place was the Tankard, and then the two chalices, one for third and one for the best painted. Without further ado though, we'll go into the first game. So the first two games are 350, and this is my list. It's Dalamyr, who didn't actually make this photo. He's still in the box, forgot to get him out until deployment. But it's Dalamyr leading 7 pirates with bows and 11 pirates with spear and shield. Then there's a bosun with a spear, because it's only 1 point, despite him being a hero, and a shield. And then he has with him 4 guys with spear and shield, and then 8 reavers for a fairly sizable model count and some serious punch. My opponent was Goblin Town. This is a huge horde of goblins, and at D3, when I've got loads of shooting, I'm quite excited about this in Clash by Moonlight. But unfortunately, it's not Clash by Moonlight. We are doing Breakthrough, where there's an objective on the left and the right worth 2 each, and then my objective is worth 1 to me and 4 to him, and vice versa. So the scribe, who can drop guys behind, is going to be really, really painful here. The list is very similar to the Goblin Town list I was considering bringing, although at this point's level I was going to drop the scribe for the deep striking mercenaries. But very, very similar, and it's going to hurt. This is the board that we're going to be playing on. It's quite open, although there is a little bit of terrain that I might be able to anchor on to try and stop those hurls from the Goblin King. The main thing about this table, though, is it's really, really nice. The terrain's quite small and subtle, but I'm definitely going to be stealing some of these ideas, particularly the standing stones. I really like that. In order to have enough memory on my phone, I filmed these games in time-lapse, although more on that fiasco later. So this is the start of the game. Deployment, I deploy my first warband slightly to the left of centre and then just decide to chuck the next with it. Fortunately, Goblin Town goes opposite. Was thinking he might go and secure that right hand or bottom objective, but fortunately he didn't. I kept my archers towards the back, not so much to shoot, but mainly to protect my objective and to go after anyone that tried to go for any of the objectives. The initial slog was savage. My reavers, backed up by spearmen, wounding on 4s, the 3 dice to win the fight, plus a banner reroll from the bosun. It was horrendous. I just ripped him apart. He does get some guys that come in behind me, which is quite unfortunate there from the scribe. He's getting a few hurls off as well, which is fairly nasty. There's some prone markers there. You can see the king does start to do his magic. The king, in fact, I think kills 11. I lose 12 in total. The goblins fairly pants, as you can see now. My force is starting to wrap them. It's savage. We get one guy running towards the objective down there. The archers trying now to volley into the goblins that are running towards them on the objective, but then there you've just seen them break. The goblins broken, are fleeing left, right and centre. Ultimately, with goblins legging it and my guys stuffing up anyone that survives, his objective is neutralised. Nobody has that one. Same with that one that's the top of the screen. Ultimately, I'm able to fully defend my own, and I take the one that's at the bottom of the screen, as well as breaking him unbroken. It's a 7-2 victory to the Pirates. A nasty matchup there for the goblins, but it's a good start for the Pirates. Next up, I am against a very, very scary army, which is GBHl and Radagast on sleigh. Radagast there being the leader. This is a particularly nasty matchup, which is a shame considering this is the scenario I thought I was going to do best at, which is Clash by Moonlight. This particular army is stunning. It is difficult to quite make it out in the photos, but it's really, really good. Very well converted. And fits nicely on that display board. This ultimately won the best painted as well. Spoiler for the end of the video, but really, really nice. You may or may not have seen it on Facebook on the GBHl. I've seen some photos of this before, and it is really impressive work. This is the table that we're playing on. It's quite open, although as the points are small and it's just 2 monsters against me, needless to say, we don't use the entire space. So the game begins, and we're both fairly cagey to start with. I form up on this rock in a bit of a ring so that I can't get hurled quite as badly as I otherwise might have. Apologies for the quality of this footage. This was rather than filmed in time-lapse, it was filmed in slow motion. So the entire footage for the game is well over 7 hours. So it's been sped up and up and up. It's not really done very well. It also had a big knock-on effect. The cache memory in my phone is now 80 gigawilliwatts. It's whatever they're called. It's all gone a bit wrong. So at this point in the game, GBHl is now, I think, 7 inches, so he's getting ready to charge in. He's well in bow range. Nothing really happened. Needless to say, he was never going to go down to bows, and he's got the charge, as has Radagast. I fired 1,000,000 shots into combat to try and kill the guy that he's fighting. It just never came off. Even with +1 to wound, Clash by Moonlight, I just kept hitting Big Bird. I think I did a wound to him. Needless to say, he fated it or took the wound, whichever one Radagast can heal. He can either heal fate or wounds. I think it must be wounds. He was fine the next turn. Here, I'm moving around. I'm trying to get kind of into a position where I can commit. Because I couldn't kill one poor pirate, GBHl was able to hurl. He's constantly hurling into my leader and my bosun. Just managing to box him out. Did have to undo a play where he tried to barge and move my guys that weren't spear supports. We clarified that. At this point, now GBHl is fully surrounded. Every dick and his dog has gone in. It's a strike off. I lose the strike off, but amazingly, he rolls a 4 high and with only 1 mite left, he is killed. +1 to wound. Piercing striking on my Reavers, who all have axes as well. They were wounded on 4, so they just ripped him apart. Then Radagast. Radagast now kept getting priority. I burnt everything to take down Guahir. So Raddy keeps running. At this point, I can't win because I've not killed his leader. I'm now broken, so I have to kill Radagast to table him. And it just doesn't go my way. All in on the last. It comes down to a 50-50 roll-off. I lose it, Dalamyr's killed, and the game ends. The final score here is something horrendous, like 12-3 or something like that. I didn't actually write it down, but I got well and truly dicked. It all came down to that final combat, and that's the way dice go. Despite the loss, though, it was a really fun game against a really sporting opponent. The third game was played on this table here. That central bit of terrain with that wall, that was our middle part, and we're playing capture and control on this. So with the 5 objectives, middle, left, right, top and bottom, all worth 2, and they're tap and run. My opponent is running Azog's Legion. He's only got the 1 warband of 18, but that warband is savage. He's got Azog on White Warg. He's got a banner with a spear and shield, along with a pleb with spear and shield, 4 bats, and then I believe 12 berserkers, whatever makes the 18. Really, really hard hitting, nasty stuff with the bats for objectives. This could be very, very nasty. As the escalation has escalated, my army has tweaked as well. So now Dalamyr is leading a Black Numenorian banner. This time just 6 spear and shield. He's got 4 bowmen, and he's also got 2 of the arbalesters. He is joined by a captain with shield, and this captain has with him 3 archers, 5 spearmen with shield and spear, and 2 arbalesters. Then finally, don't fix what ain't broke, we have the bosun with 8 reavers with axes, and I have paid the point for it, as well as 4 spearmen with shield. So, the game. 5 hours and 42 minutes, 37 seconds, 0.8 is when my phone said, no more, please, no more. And it gave up and said its memory was full. Because, again, this was set to slow-mo. I had to choose between this game and the previous one as to which one the iPad and the phone could actually handle messing with. It couldn't do both because I had to duplicate it to save it, all that fanning around basically. So I decided that I would do it in chronological order, save the previous game, and as well it's the one I lost, so it seemed a bit dodgy really to accidentally delete the game that I lost. So this one, unfortunately, we've not got as a time lapse. But what we do have is 7.6 seconds of turn 1. And to be fair, for the next 2-3 turns, things looked pretty much like this anyway. The lines clashing, and I won every single priority, every single roll-off. It sounds like an exaggeration, but, and it is a shame the footage was lost, 100% of roll-offs went to me. 100% of priorities. It was disgusting. At tied fight value, when realistically whoever wins the fight is going to kill the other, those D5 berserkers, my 3 attacks, it was horrendous. He got torn apart. Not so much through any fault of his own, just the dice. I felt bad by the end of it. The objectives were relatively close. The central one was being fought over. Left was mine for a long time, but then flipped towards the end. He had a bat that went on a rampage, nicking all the objectives. it was fairly close, but he just got abused. In the end, I broke, and he'd already well and truly broken. He pretty much just had that one bat who was still contesting central objective, and there was Azog left. He'd dismounted and had mangled the warg already. Azog just refused to die. I surrounded him every time. By the end, I was starting to get a bit low on numbers, so just one guy and thrown into combat. He, I believe, had taken a wound. In fact, no, he took a wound, but he fated it. Eventually, it almost swung the other way because the game just would not end. We couldn't roll that 1 or 2. And I was starting to hemorrhage guys. Azog killed everything he touched. And Dalamyr ran because he's a useless pirate that never sticks out a game. So without Dalamyr, I'd then given away leader points. My army all legged it. By the end, I did not have a lot of guys left. It did, however, finally end, and I had control of all 5 of the objectives for 10 points. I'd broken him for 1. Sadly, didn't get the leader wound, but it was nothing to complain about, really, in the way the game had gone. He broke me for 1, and also got leader kill because Dalamyr, being a useless pirate, legged it. So it was an 11-2 win to the Pirates. Apologies for losing the footage. It all just went horribly wrong with slow-mo. My opponent was really gracious. He honestly lost every single roll-off, every priority, but he still carried on playing with a smile, and it really hat off to him for being such a sport. Now, sadly, at this point, my phone has completely died. It's pretty much run out of battery. The memory is full. It's having a bad day. The next game, fortunately, is against JMac from JMac's Not Adventures in Arda, something like that. Games in Middle-earth. There's a description in the link below, dear me. It was a really fun game. There is some footage of that in his vlog. Do give that a go. So I won't spoil it here. Although I will say that I did win the game. So that put me on 3 wins, 1 loss for going into the end of day 1 and into day 2. And now for something completely different. Take a slight break from the games between day 1 and 2. Just have a little look at Scotland itself, though. It's a land of sunshine. Never, ever rains. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. Also, a very cultural place. We went to various galleries and museums. This particular painting in Culzean Castle is evil and magic at the same time. Her eyes follow you along. You can just about see in this video. It is creepy how this painting works. But mainly, there's lots of statues and the muse that they draw from, and all these paintings. They seem to have a common theme of culture. Yes, that guy there, he's seen the culture.
Daddy, why is there not any coat?
And their literature as well tends to focus on this culture as well, as do their desks that seem to resemble the culture as well. Scotland is a land famed for its food and drinks, and their supermarkets are incredible. Chewbacca are there paying a visit. They drink a lot of iron brew. This takes up an exceptionally large amount of the shelves and is awesome. They also have burgers for breakfast. And they take things and put the word Scotch in front of it and turn it into Scottish things. And another part of this is putting breadcrumbs round it. The breadcrumbs makes things truly Scotch, which is why nobody ever drinks the whiskey, because this is all just full of breadcrumbs. At least I assume. It's also a land of castles. This is just a general street, and this just a poor man's semi-detached house resembling a very large castle with stable. It's a very clever land, this. Very, very clever. Even the dolphins are well educated. So, next time you're looking for a holiday, or even for the next Scottish tournament, why not come along and visit this amazing land? A land of sunshine, eternal, glorious sun. A land where they put breadcrumbs in whiskey. And a land of tits and ass. So, sorry, a land of culture. Of culture. So we're into day 2. Now at 750 points, we've got all the tricks. We've got Dalamyr, or the Delgamar rather, has joined in, and we've got some extra numbers. Apologies here for the lighting. I set them up with the light behind instead of in front. Purely my fault. There are some shots later on, but they're not in the warband, so I chose this photo. We've got the Don't Fix It If It's Not Broke Bosun warband with the 8 reavers with axes and 4 spear and shield fellas. And then Dalamyr's warband, he's got 3 bows, 5 spear and shield. He's now got 3 just standard guys with shield and 3 arbalisters. And that black Númenórean banner as well. Then an identical warband but with 1 less spear. We have Delgamar, whichever one isn't the leader, the guy with a whip, basically. He is the Hasherin assassin that comes with the leader from Games Workshop, and I've just given him a whip instead of one of his daggers. And then finally, the captain, his warband has been stripped down a little bit. He has 2 guys with bow, 3 with spear and shield, 2 with shield, and 3 arbalisters. Now this photo, as much as it's not got any lighting done properly, there's also the 8 guys with shield missing as well. So just imagine that they're there as well. The total number of warriors is 50, so it's got 54 in total. It's quite a nasty little force. And it needs to be good because it's going up against this pure filth. I've played against him a couple of times with Gil-galad, and Gil-galad has torn through everything, whipping Gwaihir and dwarves and anything in between. He, bizarrely, unfortunately, only has 2 bow shots with the 2 knights. Everything else is pure melee, which is good for our scenario. Or good at least for me, as we're playing Divide and Conquer, where you alternate diagonal corners for your deployment, and there are those 3 objectives, 1 in the middle and then 1 on either side. So I'm going to have a lot more bow shots, although as it's all about getting to those objectives and getting to the middle and then slogging it out, it is going to be brutal, as he has Gil-galad on horse, Isildur rather, the one with the ring rather than Big Daddy, on horse, and Círdan. Now, if you've seen any of the other battle reports with Scott and his Rivendell with Círdan, you'll know just how much I hate that elf. It's going to be blinding light. There may well be terror. It's all going to hurt. And we're actually playing on this board that I've set my guys up for just for a photo shoot, so that's quite handy. Especially as some nice open sight lines. Although, spoiler, if crossbows never roll more than a 2 to wound, you'll never kill anything with them. So first off, I deploy my captain at the top left, and then he deploys Círdan. I then chuck down, I believe, Whippy Boy, and then the reavers go with the captain, and Dalamyr goes with Mr. Whippy. he puts Isildur up in the top right and keeping blinding light with his most valuable leader, Gil-galad. They are ready to roll. First couple of turns, I shoot into blinding light, nothing happens. I shoot at the D5, squishes up at the top, do absolutely nothing. Shooting in this was both incredible and useless. We'll get onto that a little bit later. So I charge forward. Those dice are keeping me out of Gil-galad range, although the knights are well and truly in it. My crossbows stay still largely for a good while to keep getting shots, but they just do nothing. I think we kill one guy with a crossbow, maybe, if that. His knights have finally made it in. Gil-galad not in charge range, but he's too close to be charged. I figure I've already lost this, so I just lose my mind. We have a bit of a snafu, forget about blinding light, but it's back. I strike with my leader and combat with Whippy Boy, just for a laugh. Then I decide to go after Círdan because I've just seen him with my leader who struck. But to get in, Dalamyr, or whoever the whippy one is, has to charge Gil-galad. Gil-galad has done a strike, just in case my leader was going to go in. It's irrelevant because he's fight 10 now and he wipes out Whippy Boy. My leader does kill Círdan, but an insane trade. My leader is now behind enemy lines. It's all going to go horribly wrong. The lines clash, and to be honest, the elves whiff, and my guys do start to get some kills. But it's all going a little bit nasty. The saving grace comes when one random pleb, there you can see him on the rock near the hill, the elven side. He jumps up and whips a knife into combat and takes Gil-galad off his horse the next turn when he has charged into my leader. Now he does roll a 6, he lands on his feet. However, he then rolls, Gil-galad rolls 3 1s, banner re-rolls himself with his Lord of the West to a 1. 4 1s, loses the fight. I don't wound him, but the fact that my leader survived was unbelievable. And the elves are hemorrhaging, guys. He's on the central objective, but his line is now quite thin. The same thing as well happens to Isildur. He loses his horse when he is charged into combat against my knight, against my captain. All in all, shooting has done nothing, but taking those 2 horses was huge. And the numbers just did it. I lose my leader, but properly rinse the troops. My numbers really do it. I don't break by the end. He's broken. Taking the objectives, it's a 7-2 win. The win came as a complete surprise. Did not expect it at all. Especially having completely lost my mind and thrown my leader. But it was a really, really fun game against a great opponent. So with 4 wins and a loss, I'm currently 3rd and now playing on table 2 in the final game. So no pressure, but I really, really need to win this because, let's face it, there's always that little bit of competitive player in everybody. Nobody likes to lose Monopoly. I'd really like to win this next game. As long as I win, then fingers crossed, I should at least come 3rd. Players in the 1st and 2nd position are playing each other. So fingers crossed, a win here should do it. If I lose, then I'll probably end up fairly mid of the top table, about 6 or 7 maybe, as people that are currently on 4 can jump up to 5. So all to play for, and then I see the army that I'm against. Now this is a photo that I took just when I was walking round. I thought it was really beautiful. This is not the full 750 list. I think this must be 550. It's the same number of troops. The difference is that on top of the 45 odd troops with the Master, Braga, Alfred, there's also Guahir and 2 eagles. Ouch. Pairing Guahir with lots of squishy troops is something I've played with myself, with Minas Tirith, and with some success dwarves at a tournament where, in fact, the previous game's Gilgalad had torn Guahir a new one. So I know that it can be particularly nasty. And this list has 2 extra eagles, so they can hurl into each other's combats and just generally be a complete and utter pain. This is going to be a tough final game. As I've said, this is the board that we're playing on, and the scenario is Fog of War. It is my absolute favourite scenario, but I'm not very good at it because I always forget what I'm meant to be doing. I completely forgot that I was supposed to be keeping someone alive. I wrote it down, but at the end of the game, when he asked me who I was trying to keep alive, I honestly and legitimately could not remember, which meant the final reveal was very, very tense. The game then. I outshoot him because he's got 12 bows, but I've got 9 crossbows and 8 bowmen. So I deploy like a coward with my 9 crossbows in the middle and then the bows behind, with everyone else slightly back and around. We've already decided, because there's so much scatter terrain, there are only 3 objectives we can choose each, which are the trees in the bottom right of the screen, the 3 in the middle, and the house on my side. And then for him, it's either the tree or the pond. I can't even remember. I chose the tree, and I hope that was right. I'd already forgotten. I never reached it, spoilers. The house in the middle, and then there's some sort of rocks up on the top left. This, I knew realistically, was going to come down to one big scrap. Because I knew that it was going to be something in the back 12, I could deploy back and just shoot, and that was my plan. My plan as well was to play poker. Now, I chose to kill or wound Guahir because he has to go into combat to be worth it. And as there's no leader VPs, Dalamyr was just going to go in, mangle him, win or lose, that's the play. And I decided that I would just shoot Braga into oblivion because he's the infinite might annoying guy. And he's a fairly sensible choice. Now, I threw every arrow at him and some hilarious shots in the game. Some of them threw like 4 in the ways and wounded him. And this really demoralised my opponent. And at times I forgot that I'd not got those VPs. I was so into the role. But this was massive because it meant that later on, when Guahir finally took a wound, he fated it once, rolled a 1 and thought, you know what, whatever, I'll just let it slide. And that was huge for VPs. This game was really, really good fun, and my opponent handled his army so well, hurling into all the right combats and just generally being a very, very talented player, with the right level of sportsmanship as well. We played quite a relaxed game. At one point, you know, a heroic, the banner effect was forgotten, and we were fine with that. You know, one of those nice relaxed games, exactly what you want for the final game of the day. We're both in a position to podium, depending on how we do, and it was just really relaxed. Ultimately, his final play was a barge from Guahir, which took the house. I was fairly confident the house was his objective. So, the final score. He was trying to save his captain. His captain was hiding. I didn't really think about him, and he got the full 3 victory points. That house was his objective, and he claimed it for 3. I had a guy that I was so close to being able to back away onto it, but bizarrely won the fight against Guahir and 2 plebs, and wasn't able to back away. Guahir then backed away, still touching. And he needed to kill my captain. Now, he hurled into my captain. He failed his fate and took a wound, which got him 1 victory point, so he's on 7. My captain then hid in the 3 trees where a lot of the fighting was going on, near the houses and near my book that's on the screen. No one could really get to him. He did charge him a couple of times. I did suspect he might be the target, because he left my bosun alone, and he didn't really go after Whippy Boy, so I figured he might be the captain. Not enough to risk it, but I just kept him there, and he was calling moves when needed. So he had 7 victory points. Now, I didn't get my terrain because it was miles away. I had a runner, but I needed 3 turns, and I knew he wasn't going to reach the objective. So I got none for that. I put a wound on Guahir, because, as I say, he didn't fate it because my poker was so good, he figured I was after Braga. And I managed to break him unbroken. The final turn, we knew it was the final turn. It had already been announced. I needed to kill 4. Now, I had priority, and on the charge, killed 3 with throwing weapons. I had loads of traps, so the break was sorted. I was about 8 off break when a hurl went through 5 of my guys and killed 4. I was actually really close to breaking, but amazingly, it was break unbroken for 3 victory points. And then he asked, "Who are you trying to save?" Completely forgot that was a thing. I then checked in my book, and I was trying to save the bosun, who had been hurled into but fated it and lived for the full 3 victory points. So it was, amazingly, despite completely forgetting it was even an objective, an undeserved draw. Really figured I'd lost that. When he got the house, I thought it was all over. Really good. A proper fog of war finish where you have no idea who the winners are until it's revealed. It was really, really good. Probably my favourite game, this one. Absolutely brilliant. My opponent was very, very skilled with his army. But really good sport. Fantastic game to cap it all off. Finally, following that, it was time to judge the best painted, which was an independent panel. Not too many armies went out, but there were some really nice looking ones. Those dwarves were stunning. This really cool and thematic Men of the West, which went following Aragorn's journey. It was really cool. The ultimate winners, spoiler again, this very nicely converted bear, tree, bird kind of army. I can't even remember what they are. The Black Riders, colour-coded, which again is a really nice little trick, which I'll have to steal if I ever run them. And here the beautiful Lothlorien from J-Mac as well. He's done a tournament vlog as well. Do go check that out. I'll stick a link for his channel below. We've done a couple of battle reports as well in my trip up to Scotland, so they will be following soon as well. As I said before, when the lighting was in the wrong place for my army, I did put it out for best painted. Not that I was ever going to win, because I painted them in 3 days and they look fairly rough and ready, but they do look really cool with the terrain. Yeah, bucketfuls of pirates. Finally, it was time for the prizes for first, second, third, and best painted, and there was a wooden spoon as well. Third place went to the person who lost the top table game. He was running Lothlorien with Theodred, a Rohan army, Rohan Lothlorien combination, which was particularly lethal. I never got a chance to play against it, but it sounded very, very nasty. J-Mac did play against it, and I think it was fairly one-sided. I won't give anything away. Again, if you watch his tournament vlog video from the weekend, he does go into some detail about that game. So he came third. By some miracle, my draw kept me on the podium and pushed me up to second place. So I won that amazing tankard that you can see top left of that photo, which is pride of place on my trophy cabinet. Really, really cool, and dead chuffed with that. First place went to the Cari-Belegaer-ean Alliance bucket of friends. He also won the best painted, and he was genuinely well deserved win. He's the chap that beat me. So it's always nice when the person that beats you goes on to win. All in all, really, really good tournament. Cannot recommend it enough. This is the first one that has been run here. You'd never have known. It was very, very slick. All went well. Really like the Escalation format. It was fantastic. And a free lunch. What more do you need in a tournament? So that brings us to a close. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It was certainly a really, really fun tournament, and I've enjoyed putting this video together just to remind myself of all those great games and meeting those great people. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.